Welcome back to Underage Packers. That was a great interview with Peter Bukowski, Mr. DVOA. Joining us now, though, is another very special guest. It's Andy Herman. How you doing, Andy?
I'm doing. I think you could argue a more special guest, actually, even than Peter Bukowski. I think most would make that argument, actually.
We won't get too much into that. We won't tiptoe on that line. I am a little bit disappointed with your attire. I mean, can we? Do you have the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle set around?
I don't. I think it's upstairs. I apologize.
That's really
Usually it's by me, but I don't see it. I think it's upstairs.
save it for game day. Save it for the game day look.
Smart move. Oh, by the way, did you figure out what you're wearing? Jersey,
Yeah.
sweatshirt? What did you decide?
So I was gonna go with the James Jones look, the jersey over the hoodie, but I decided maybe that might even be too much. I'm not gonna upset the football gods. I'll wear my jersey on Victory Sunday though.
Okay, deal. I think James Jones hoodie over sweatshirt. That's like NFC Championship game type stuff. I think
Exactly.
I think you bring that out for that. That's got to be like a big occasion.
Yeah, you can't experience too much in the playoffs. I mean, Big B, do you know? I mean, do you got the lucky stuff down? Do you have your superstitions ready?
I don't, as time has gone on, I've kind of like that stuff has kind of gone away a little bit more. It's been, obviously I'm still a fan. Nobody's gonna, confuse me otherwise, but like it's a little bit tougher to kind of just turn the analyst brain off during some of it. But no, I don't have anything lucky or superstitious other than, I like my joke growing up was that like I couldn't like drink during the game or like be impacted in any way because I had to coach the team. So like that was my joke like growing up when I was like in college and stuff. So other than that, no, nothing major.
Yeah, I mean, 2018, the Bears game, I sat in the same position for the whole second half. 1 second I moved my leg the wrong way, and Kyle Fuller drops the interception. So I wasn't risking it after that. But Big B, what do you got on for a game day?
Well, I usually just have a sweatshirt on and then my jersey over it, James Jones style. But I usually take off the sweatshirt midway through because I'm so hot and sweating because I'm jumping around and stuff.
Exactly. My basement is extremely cold, so I don't have to worry about that. But let's get to some actual football talk here. Today with Andy, we want to talk about, we focusing a lot lately, at least me, just when we get into January here, all my lifetime, all of mine and Big B's lifetime, if the Packers aren't playing in January, something extremely wrong is going on. And really even in Andy's, I'm not going to age you too much there. But in 2017 and 2018, it was the first time the Packers had missed the playoffs for 2 consecutive years in quite a while there. Um, and they made a lot of changes in that span from 2018 to 2019 and now 2020. And Brian Gutekunst stepped in for Ted Thompson, Matt LaFleur in for Mike McCarthy, and they really completely changed not only the roster of this team but the vibe, the feeling, and the type of players they had on this team. Andy, what would you, when you're looking at this, what would what would you say is Brian Gutekunst's philosophy that helped him make all these moves that got the Packers to this great place?
Yeah, it's a really great question. Just going back a little bit before what you said about, your entire life. I mean, I think all three of us are right around the same age. So I think we all have pretty much the same experiences. So
Exactly.
outside of that, I think what he's done has been fantastic. So I think first of all, when you're a GM, the first thing you want to do is have a culture. What is your vision and what is your culture for the team? And I think that's been insanely apparent with basically every move that they've made. And I think that goes up to Mark Murphy as well. But, from hiring Brian Gutekunst to GM and then them combined signing, or hiring Matt LaFleur as head coach, who I think shares a very similar type of vision. But it's also in getting guys like Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith, who, while they're great on the field, have also made a huge impact in that locker room as well. It's, bringing in guys like a Jared Valdir, a veteran presence at times, a Mercedes Lewis, who has had a ridiculous, impact on that tight end group and in that locker room. So it starts with that vision and that philosophy and having something that you want to have as the core of your team. And I think this is a team, Adrian Amos, another example of that, right? Like it's made up of great individuals who can build up a locker room, build up a program, and And all you need to do is read Robert Tunyon's article that he wrote this week, and you get just this picturesque view of what it means to be a Green Bay Packer right now. That starts with a vision from Brian Gutekunst, but that goes back to Ron Wolf and Ted Thompson and bringing in Packer people and all that sort of thing. He's just kind of expounding upon that, but then it goes above and beyond that too, because it's great to have great people, but ultimately you're judged on winning football games, right? So you can have a bunch of Mother Teresas and go 0-16, and it's not going to mean a whole hell of a lot. So I think the fact that he's been able to establish talent, and he's done it in a way that's been obviously the antithesis of what Ted Thompson has. I guess maybe that's the wrong way to say it, because he's taken that core philosophy of Ted Thompson of draft and develop, and he's made that the lifeblood of the roster. That is ultimately going to be what this team is built up upon, is the draft and develop philosophy. But what Ted Thompson's errors later in his career was ignoring all the other avenues. He did a great job of it, whether it be with Ryan Pickett, with Charles Woodson, and those type of players early in his career, but then he got away from it and just went solely draft and develop. And you're at a day and age where draft and develop is great and it works well, but you're going to miss on players. I don't care how good of a GM you are, you're going to miss on players, and there's eventually going to be some holes on your roster. And you have to be able to say, you know what, we need to supplement that and make sure that we fill those gaps in the meantime with players who can play now, so that we can continue this draft and develop philosophy and don't have to draft for need, because need is a terrible evaluator of talent.
God, I'm just going to, whenever someone tells me the 2020 draft is terrible, I'm just going to clip that 2-minute segment right there and send that to them. Because the DIC, as Corey Banky would call it, the draft industrial complex, it's not built for patience. It's not built for being patient about Rashawn Gary. It's not being patient for not signing Antonio Brown, not going out there and signing a wide receiver, and instead of putting faith in Marquez Valdes-Scantling and Alan Lazard. Big B, what is your because there's been a lot of players that have had a kind of a breakout this year. What is your biggest surprise player that took some time to develop but really came out to play and showed out his full potential this year?
All right. I'm going to say Robert Tonyan, because I think I had him as a surprise cut before the season, right? Did. If I remember correctly.
You know what you also said in April? You said that Jake Hansen was going to overtake Corey Linsley. So,
hey.
I'm not going to go.
Joey's got receipts, man. Joey's got receipts.
I sure did. I watched our episode after the draft last night, but let's talk a little bit about that. Talking with Brian Gutekunst. Now, this is just a vision I have in my head, even if they don't end up winning the Super Bowl, you get the same idea. If the Packers end up winning the Super Bowl, a lot of people that hated on the 2020 draft class early on will still hate on it. But to me, if they end up winning the Super Bowl, this draft class looks all that much better. Andy, what would you say the Packers winning the Super Bowl, Aaron Rodgers presumably winning the MVP, what would that add to the painting of the 2020 draft class for the Packers?
I mean, there's very few GMs who can, have their cake and eat it too. Being able to establish a roster that can win a Super Bowl in the same season that you potentially draft your future quarterback, that just doesn't happen. So that's the dream if you're an NFL GM. Now, I guarantee you, and Brian Gutekunst will never, ever say anything like this, but I guarantee you that there is some level of nervousness at this point of time of just in general, he knows he has a phenomenal team right now, right? And he knows that they have a chance to win a Super Bowl. And arguably, and especially if you look at the 20 picks that happened immediately after Jordan Love, you can make a strong argument that any of those 20 guys is not going to make the difference between the Packers winning a Super Bowl this year and not. But just as a normal human being, the normal reaction that you're going to go through could I have done one more thing to get one more player? Could I have done, so that I guarantee you there is some level, even if it's way beyond the surface, there's some level of nervousness of maybe I should have gone just a tad bit more all in because this team is freaking amazing. And now we can go out and win a Super Bowl and so on and so forth. But if they get through this and they win a Super Bowl, and you basically drafted a team for the future in this entire draft class, which is what they normally do most years, whether they win a Super Bowl or not, but it's just the icing on the cake for everything. And I mean, teams will be livid in the fact that Green Bay won a Super Bowl and drafted a first round quarterback to potentially replace Aaron Rodgers in the same year. That's the stuff that GM dreams are made of.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I don't think anybody expected Aaron Rodgers to have an MVP year. I don't think anybody expected Matt LaFleur 2 years ago to come in here and go 13-3 in his first 2 seasons. And the thing that Matt LaFleur never gets credit for, he always, he has the tarnish of, well, you have Aaron Rodgers, so you don't get Coach of the Year consideration, which really doesn't matter. I mean, if he's going to go 13-3 and doesn't win the Coach of the Year a single time, who cares really? But it's also like the Packers went 6-9-1 with Aaron Rodgers. Sure, he was injured, which we found out near the end of the year. But he obviously changed something in that offense. He brought a new juice, brought some new innovation, along with Nathaniel Hackett, which actually yesterday was a 2-year anniversary of the hiring of Nathaniel Hackett. But Big B, let's switch gears here to Matt LaFleur. You already has enough been said about what he's done in his first 2 years, but what do you think was the key? What was more important really for Aaron Rodgers to get to that MVP level? Was it more of Aaron Rodgers getting back to the fundamentals? Was it just Matt LaFleur's QB easy system? What was the biggest thing that helped propel Rodgers to that level?
Well, I really think it goes back to like this offseason when they were on Zoom dissecting the playbook, all the time in the world to do it. I feel like that is the key, and I think I've said that many times too.
Yeah, and I think going back to this offseason, not to get political about Jordan Love here, but I think the idea that Jordan Love gave Aaron Rodgers a chip on his shoulder because he supposedly felt the Packers were doubting him, I don't think that's the case. But I think the fact that Aaron Rodgers realized he might not be here till he's 42, like a Drew Brees story, he focused more. He, not that he didn't have that before, but he realized that this isn't forever and that his time might be shorter than he expected it to be. Andy, what would you say, not getting too much X and O, but what would you say was the most important part of propelling Rodgers to this level?
It's really interesting. I was talking about this with Ben Fennell as well on Pack a Day for Friday's episode. Mm-hmm. And it took, actually, no, I lied. I talked about it on a radio show. I apologize. But I talked about how there's a tremendous amount of compromise that took place both with Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers. And we have seen in the past, let's just take Josh McDaniels going to Denver, for example, where Josh McDaniels goes to Denver and he says, listen, we're running my system. I'm here for a reason. They hired me as a coach. We're running my system, and that's the way things are going to be. And quickly you saw things fracture. Jay Cutler was traded to the Bears, I believe a season later. They drafted Tim Tebow. Josh McDaniels was out before you know it. And it takes a lot for a head coach, especially a young coach who's never been a head coach before, to come in and say, you know what? I do want to run some things on my offense. We're definitely going to run some things, but Aaron, what do you feel comfortable with? What things from your offense in the past would you like to run and that you feel comfortable with? And then what things in my offense, that I want to do you feel comfortable with running? And meeting Aaron halfway there, you can only imagine if Matt LaFleur comes in and says, here's my offense, this is what we're doing, to Aaron Rodgers, that's going to be, I mean, it's not going to work, right? It's going to be a slap in the face to him in some capacity. So the fact that LaFleur came in and bent halfway and said, what do you feel comfortable with? Let's do things that you like and let's meet halfway. That was huge. And then this offseason, to Big B's point, Aaron met him the other half of the way. He said, you know what? And at least this is what seems, obviously I'm not in the room hearing the conversations, but it seems to the effect of that Rodgers was basically like, you know what, we did some stuff last year. Some of it, worked. We carried some stuff over. Let's go to your offense. And it sounds like Nathaniel Hackett, Aaron Rodgers, Luke Getsy, and Matt LaFleur all got together, narrowed it down, and credit now to Aaron Rodgers for going the 50% the other way and saying, you know what, you're the coach, let's run your stuff. And I think that communication. And I think LaFleur initially meeting them halfway is really what set up that entire relationship for success. And I think when Rodgers started to see some of the stuff that LaFleur ran a season ago and see some of it come to fruition, I think he bought trust in Matt LaFleur and bought into that offense, hook, line, and sinker. And now we've been able to see what is this gorgeous Matt LaFleur offense that combines so many concepts of Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay and Nathaniel Hackett, and even some of the stuff that Rodgers has worked in the past with Mike McCarthy, all of it together, but as a core concept that they focus on. And now everything works in unison and in harmony with one another. Boom, magic. MVP, 13-3, number one seed, opportunity to go to a Super Bowl if they play well. What more can you ask for?
Love it. I think that's the benefit you get with a young coach instead of going the traditional route of getting an older, experienced guy. And that's kind of been the trend we've seen a lot in the NFL lately. I mean, out of the recent head coaches that got hired, I don't think there's one, even in this process, the carousel, that's an older one that has ever had a head coaching job before.
Urban Meyer would be the only one, I think.
Yeah, at a college level, right?
Yep.
So, that's the trend. And you mentioned Sean McVay. He's facing him this week. So let's talk a little bit about that game tomorrow. So, like I talked about earlier, and as my tweets put out there, that I wasn't feeling too confident. This is how I always am at the start of the week when I find out, especially when we're just finding out our opponent, like that Sunday. So, I get really nervous on Monday. Wednesday, I play my first Madden game against them. I listen to Packers transplants. I listen to these podcasts. And then I finally just calm. Whatever happens, happens. Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams are on our side. And I feel good about this game. Andy, I guess what is, even with all the matchups that are in the Packers' favor, there's still going to be the boogeyman built up about Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald. What is the one sign you see that really no one is talking about that the Packers can really take advantage of against the Rams?
I mean, it's just the Rams offense. I mean, I don't think enough people are talking about, Troy Aikman, and maybe Aikman was just overselling it and being hyperbolic, but Troy Aikman was basically selling it like they may have gone with John Wolford as their starter, even if Goff was 100% healthy, right? Like that's a major development that this dude who was out of the NFL has potentially taken over as the number one quarterback for the Rams because they don't trust Jared Goff running this offense anymore. Like, listen, Green Bay can lose this game, right? There's no two ways about it. They can. But if you had to handpick one of the 8 teams left that you had to play, you were picking the Rams. Yeah. And if you had to handpick a quarterback that's left, you're handpicking Jared Goff. Like there's no two ways around it. So yeah, the Rams can do some darn good things on defense, and they are obviously number one for a reason. But I feel very confident about the Packers defense going up against this Rams offense, that they're going to be able to hold them, potentially get some turnovers to help that and aid the offense a little bit. And I still think Green Bay puts up, 24 at minimum. I mean, 24 would seem like, like the floor for this game. So, and I'm not sure LA can get there. I really, I'm not. So, I really like this matchup. Joey talking to you guys is like talking to me from like 10 years or probably like, I don't know, 15 years ago now. I forget how old I am, but like that, I would do the same thing, simulated in Madden or played in Madden and, go through kind of that same similar process. But again, there's no way, two ways about it. The Rams can win this game if they play well, but I always look at it from this picture. Who has more outs? And what I mean by that is, kind of think of a poker, no limit hold'em. You always want as many outs as you possibly can. You want to give yourself those outs. And the Rams, to me, have to play a near perfect game. And if they play awesome on defense and shut down Devontae Adams and don't turn the ball over and Jared Goff has his best game and they run the football well and they play good spot, like if they do all of that, then yeah, they could beat Green Bay. But if the Rams miss on any of those, or if they have turnovers, I don't think they can overcome that. On the flip side for Green Bay, I think they have a little bit more room for error. If they have a turnover or maybe lose the turnover battle by 1, or maybe give up an explosive play to a Cooper Kupp or a Reynolds or someone like that, I think they can overcome that. Whereas I don't think the Rams can. I think Green Bay can play a B to B plus game and still win this. And I think it takes an A plus game for the Rams to win.
Yeah, I really think this game is going to come down to, like you mentioned, the turnover battle, but also the field, and the possession, where your field possession there. If the Packers are getting the ball consistently, pretty backed up, they're gonna struggle getting 70 yards, drive in and drive out against even the Rams defense. But, if the Rams are in that situation, who knows if they even are able to put 10 points on the board. Big B, what do you think the Packers, because, they on defensive side of things, they just got to put it into Cam Akers, and hopefully they can do the same thing that they did against Tennessee. They did against Chicago. They put up a fast lead. They get it out to a fast start where they aren't able to rely on that running game to win them the game. What do you think the Packers have to do really well in this game to be able to beat the Rams?
Well, just play offense. I mean, really, just play offense. Do what you've been doing all season long.
Mm-hmm.
Got Jamal Williams, so that's already a dub.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, anytime you have a literal animal, a goat on your side, I don't think there's any chance of you losing. Well, I guess let's end it off here with let's pull one out of the bag. And we'll go with bold predictions. Andy, is it Adrian Amos turnover? Is it Damon Harrison pick six a la BJ Raji? What is your bold prediction for this game?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say Dean Lowry makes a big impactful play in this game. So I don't know why, other than the fact that if you go back and watch the last few seasons of Dean Lowry, he usually has one or two really good games a year just out of nowhere for no apparent reason, where he makes a couple big plays and he has a huge grade and like everything looks amazing. You're like, where the hell has that been forever? And he hasn't had one of those games yet. So I think Dean, knowing the wise man that he is, I think he's saving his best for this playoff run. And in all seriousness, he really struggled at the beginning of this season, but I think he's been playing much better over the course of the last month and a half-ish. So maybe it hasn't been great. Maybe he doesn't make that impact play, but he's been playing better. And I think he comes up with an impact play in this game.
I'm crossing my fingers and hoping that Sean Meninga has been saving his best stuff for this game here. And I'll say that Malik Taylor takes one back to the house on a kick return. Big B, let's hear your bold prediction.
Alan Lazard has a 100-yard game.
Oh, I love it. Love to see it. I think Aaron Jones is going to get a lot of involvement, but also Alan Lazard might be very important in this game with Devontae Adams on Jalen Ramsey. With that, we're going to end it off here. Make sure you tune in to our live stream tomorrow at 10 a.m. We'll be joined by Matt Ramage later in the show to preview, mostly just getting hyped. So we won't have super statistical analytics, but we'll be getting you hyped. Thanks, Andy, for joining us today.
You bet. I think we can obviously all agree that, Pack a Day is better than Locked On Packers podcast. I think we can all agree with that too.
I think so. I mean, Pack a Day, they don't have mid-roll. So, I mean, that's the best thing about it. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Go Pack, go.